Welcome to Neuro Affirming Practice in Early Years. The aims of this session is to understand the meaning of neurodiverse and neuroaffirming, to recognise how neuroaffirming language shapes children's identity and belonging, apply a strengths-based approach, implement practical everyday strategies, and communicate collaboratively with families and other professionals. Neurodiversity means that all human brains work differently, whether someone is neurodivergent or neurotypical. In early years, these differences are normal and natural, not flaws, not problems, and not deficits. Children think, learn, communicate, and play in different ways, and each child has their own developmental pathway, and this is expected. Neurodiversity is a concept that recognises differences in the way that people think, learn, process information, and experience the world. This term is often used when discussing conditions like autism, ADHD, Tourette's, and dyslexia. Neuroaffirming is made up of two parts. When we think of neuro, that refers to the brain, how a child thinks, learns, and experiences the world. Affirming means accepting and validating something as it is. So together, neuroaffirming means recognising that children's brains work in different ways and supporting those differences rather than trying to change or fix them. As early years practitioners, we need to adapt the way in which we support individual children to meet their needs, and we need to accept children as they are rather than comparing them to a typical way of being. So in early years, this approach informs accepting children as they are, supporting children in ways that respect and value the differences in how their brain works, the way in which we speak with and about children to their families, seeing strengths first, changing our expectations rather than changing the child, and using neuro-affirming language in every context. Neuro-affirming practice isn't an extra layer of work. It fits within the frameworks that we already use in early years. GIRFIC. That's built on a child-centred approach, focusing on each child's needs, the preferred way of communicating, and what makes them feel safe. Neuroaffirming practice strengthens this by recognising and supporting each child's neurotype. The UNCRC also underpins this approach, upholding children's rights such as dignity, inclusion, and being understood. It's important to start by recognising how people have their own preferences for how they want to be described. Language is personal, and neurodivergent individuals should always have the freedom to choose the words that best reflect their identity and lived experience. Many neurodivergent people prefer identity-first language. This means saying autistic person instead of person with autism. They feel that autism is part of who they are and not something separate. If we don't know someone's preference, a neuro-affirming approach is to use identity-first language. Some examples include autistic person, ADHD person, or neurodivergent child. The slide shows two simple figures. One is labelled person with autism and the other labelled autistic person. So if you don't know the person's preference, use identity-first language, and this aligns with neuro-affirming practice and avoids treating autism as something separate or negative. The language we use in early years is so important because it shapes how children and families feel understood, respected, and included. Language matters because it influences self-esteem, the child's sense of belonging, and how families perceive their child. The language we use shapes how children see themselves. Negative language can make children feel excluded or like they're a problem. Our words and language can reduce stigma or reinforce it, whereas positive language, moves children from feeling blamed to feeling understood. It's essential that we move away from labels like the child is difficult or has bad behaviour. Instead, we need to think about what the child is communicating and what they might need. These small changes in the language we use help us to see the child differently, not as a problem, but as someone who is telling us something through their behaviour. When we write about the children in our settings, the words and language we use really matter. What we write becomes part of their permanent record, and families can read things such as their personal plans, including their pastoral notes, healthcare plans, observations and learning stories, any CMIS entries, and any other written record you hold on that child. This means that our written language must always be respectful, accurate, and kind. We do still, however, have a professional responsibility to describe areas where children require support, but this can be done without using negative or deficit-based language. Instead of focusing on what the child can't do, we need to think about what the child can do and what their behaviour might be telling us. It's important to remember that ideas about strengths and challenges, or what we see as normal or not normal, are often shaped by adults' perception and judgment. Neuro-affirming writing asks us to carefully think about who gets to decide what is normal and to question those assumptions. So, to summarise, the language we use must be clear, respectful, and easy for families to understand. We should describe differences in a way that values children's identity. We should focus on child's strength, voice, and lived experiences rather than professional judgment alone. And we should write in a way that supports equity, dignity, and inclusion. The way we communicate with children and families is important. Our words can make children feel understood and supported, or they can make them feel judged. Behaviour is communication. When we change our words, we change how we see the child. Simple examples you can see on screen here that we can use in practice. A strengths-based approach means we start by looking at the child and what they enjoy, what they're good at, and what feels meaningful to them. This helps us to understand who they are, not just what they find hard. When we build on a child's passion and skills and preferred way of learning, they feel more confident and motivated. It also helps us to plan learning that actually works for them. We also think about the environment. Instead of expecting the child to fit in, we need to look at what changes we can make to remove barriers and help them succeed. A strengths-based approach doesn't ignore the challenges. It simply means we look for the right supports, adjustments, and relationships that help children grow at their own pace. In order to do this successfully, children need safe spaces and trusted adults who understand and value their differences. We need to watch, listen, and follow the child's lead. This includes following their play and not pushing our own agenda. We need to understand there's different play types and all children will play in different ways, and that's okay. We need to be behaviour detectives. We know that unmet needs and sensory needs can cause children to feel dysregulated. We need children to have strong relationships with their key adult. Here is a guide for neuro-affirming language. The link to the full document is at the end of this video. Please take a few moments to look over it and reflect on your own language and practice. Starting your neuro-affirming journey begins with personal reflection, because change begins when each of us looks honestly at our own beliefs, habits, and assumptions about children's behaviour and development. Then we need to reflect together as a team, building a shared understanding of what we already do well and what we still need to learn about neurodiversity and neuro-affirming language. From there, we take a whole setting approach. Neuro-affirming practice can't sit with one person. It needs to be modelled by leadership and embedded consistently across routines, our environment, meetings, and inductions. We then move on to focus on creating a supportive culture where staff feel confident using neuro-affirming language, interpreting behaviour as communication, and adapting expectations without judgment. And finally, we come back to reflecting honestly. What's working well? What still needs to change? And what barriers are getting in the way? And here are some reflective questions you can engage with. Some are for your own personal reflection, and others are for reflecting together as a team. We've covered a lot in this video, so let's take a moment to bring it all together. First, neurodiversity is simply about natural differences in how people think, learn, and experience the world. There's no right or wrong way to be. Second, the language we use really matters. Neuro-affirming language helps children feel seen, valued, and like they belong. Third, when we use a strengths-based approach, we focus on what children enjoy and what they're good at. This helps them feel confident and supports their development. And finally, small changes, even in how we speak and respond, can make a huge difference.